Welcome to Buckeyes Tomorrow Morning for Monday, October 30th. I'm your host, Tom Orr. The Rutgers game is in 5 days. The game against Michigan in 26 days. The Buckeyes are home from Madison after their 24-10 win over the Wisconsin Badgers. It was kind of an interesting game. You had the return of TreyVeyon Henderson, which turned out to be a very big storyline. We're going to talk about that in just a minute. You had some sort of up and down play from Kyle McCord. You had a dominant game from the Ohio State defense. And in the end, you had a performance that I think a lot of Ohio State fans were kind of worried about for a lot of the night. And then the Buckeyes ended up with their first double-digit win in Madison in 23 years. So what's the takeaway here? What are we talking about? How are the Buckeyes feeling coming off of that game? Well, the best way to find that out is just to ask them. We're going to be hearing directly from Ohio State head coach Ryan Day. You can hear a little bit from Wisconsin head coach Luke Fickell as well. But let's start with Day. And let's start with TreyVeyon Henderson. He finished the game with 24 rushes and 4 receptions for a total of 207 total yards. Was that part of the game plan? And how big was it to get him back just in that offense to be able to give them something they really had been missing for a little while?
I don't know, what we had in terms of a number coming in, but we held them out last week. It was close, but we felt like we wanted to make sure that he was 100%. And, this is a big run we're about to go on. And you can just see the difference he makes when he's out there, the explosiveness, the speed. I thought he ran hard tonight. And he's a weapon out of the backfield. You can see that down the sideline. The one that we just missed on the touchdown there, we had a linebacker out in one-on-one. And you can see, it was one heck of a route he ran. We just didn't connect on it. And we spent a bunch of time on that route. So, that was like getting stabbed in the heart. But you can just see when he's out there the impact he's having on our offense, and to get that run there in the fourth quarter was big.
Watching that game, I had this thought at one point where, in the scenes in the movies where someone says, "All right, we can do this the easy way, or we can do this the hard way." The Buckeyes chose to do the double-digit win on the road at Madison the hard way. They did it with 3 turnovers, a fumble, a pair of interceptions. It is not easy to win on the road in Madison regardless. It is definitely not easy to win on the road if you turn the ball over 3 times. So how did they do that?
Well, it started off, I think, with a good combination of the run game, and we did have some pretty good passing plays as well, and I thought that combination was good. And I think we're all frustrated that we're just not able to finish off some of those drives, and when we get into those plus territories, we just we got to finish them off, and so there's a lot that goes with that. Certainly the coaching's a big part of it, but again, when you get a guy like Trey back, and then you have Marvin on the outside, you can see the difference it makes. We decided to hold the Mecca one more week. He was close, but we just made the decision to hold him. I do feel really confident we'll get him back next week, but he makes a difference. But just some really tough performances out there. Like, certainly we can talk about the defense all night, but just offensively, Cade and Julian, these guys, they were battling at the end. And, you get to this time of year and you got a lot of bumps and bruises and things like that. And, the guys played hard. I thought the offensive line got movement tonight. I thought so, even the tight ends. We moved the line of scrimmage, and then again, having Trey back made a big difference. Certainly, running for 160 yards.
When you look at someone like TreyVeyon Henderson and what he brings to this offense, how frustrating is it for the coaches to know that they've been without him for so many just chunks of time over the last couple of years?
Well, the one thing about Trey is, like you said, you can do so much with him because he has such a great skill set, and he's one of the more competitive guys we have, and so nobody wants to be out there more than him. And you can see when he's out there, he has that drive. And he hadn't played a game in a few weeks, I guess now. And so even at the end, he was toughing it out because he was a little winded there at the end. He hadn't rushed for that many had that many carries in a while, and he had a couple of receptions and a couple of routes. So I thought he handled it well, and you can see what a weapon he is when he's out there and he's at full go. So hopefully we have another great week of practice and we can keep doing those things, and then it just puts more and more pressure on the defense when you have someone like Marvin. You get Julian out there and Cade, and so that's the idea. And I still don't think we put a complete game together on offense, and so we'll get back to it this week and keep swinging.
You heard Ryan Day earlier mention how many guys are banged up, and you saw Kyle McCord sort of limping around the field a little bit on Saturday night after he got tackled on a draw or a run up the middle. How much is that impacting Kyle at all right now? That leg injury, was that an impact on his play during the game?
No, I think I think it's like bumps and bruises and things like that, and I think something maybe happened in the game there, and he was able to fight through it, which was great, and so we'll get an evaluation, but I think he'll be fine, but. I don't think that those things are getting his way right now, but I thought he toughed it out at the end, and still hung in there. And when you do maybe have a couple tough plays, the easy thing to do is, or what most people do is they start to get gun shy, but he didn't do that. He kept swinging, he kept pushing. You could hear him on the sideline, right before that last drive where TreyVeyon ran to make it a 2-score game. I mean, he was in that huddle getting after the guys, and that he showed good leadership there. So I thought that was a positive.
Kyle McCord did have those 2 interceptions in the first half. It really had to be kind of a frustrating night for him, at least until he got things going a little later on. But it was probably a frustrating night for the Ohio State coaching staff as well, because they really preach making sure you're taking care of the football. Ohio State was not necessarily always doing that in the first half. So what did Brian Day talk to Kyle McCord about during the game?
Yeah, I usually don't get into the plays right after the game, but I have a pretty good feel of exactly what happened on both of them. I think he would tell you on the first one, it was just a bad decision. It was first down. The play was designed to go to the tight end. The tight end got caught up, and it was not how we designed it, and the ball should have got thrown away. It was a bad decision. The second one, the corner came off on cover 3, and he's reading the flat defender, and that corner he just came right off him. He took a chance and he made a nice play. I don't really blame him for that play. I don't. I mean, there's going to be times where when you're pushing it down the field, things like that are going to happen. So I told him, hey, I get it. The corner came off. Let's just play the next play. Those plays are behind us, and so those are the conversations we had. But he knew right when he came off the field on the first one that he wanted that one back. So good to see him hang in there and keep playing hard. But I think the other thing is just in general, we get into a 2-score or a 1-score game. We're trying to make it a 2-score game. We get around the 30-yard line. Like we have to make sure we're in field goal range and give Jaden an opportunity. And 2 times we didn't do that. And so that was an opportunity that was missed.
That Wisconsin game is not the first time that Ohio State has kind of left points on the field for one reason or another this year. The offense has not necessarily always been great at finishing drives and getting 7 points. So is it frustrating for Ryan Day to just see them at Notre Dame, maybe against Penn State, and now against Wisconsin, leaving some points on the field?
Yeah, I mean, now we're going against good teams, and Luke does a great job. I always want to make sure, I don't do that enough. It's just, the teams we're playing are good teams. They're well coached. They have good players. And so, I don't want to sound flippant when, I say we expect to score every time. These guys do a great job, and they had a good scheme, and they did a nice job with everything. The fans were really into it. It was a great environment. So, we want to, go on the road and be, road warriors and win these games on the road. And it's not always going to be the way you want it. But yes, what we want to get done. The expectation. And so still things we got to get better at.
It has felt like overall the Ohio State team has been in relatively decent health for most of the season, but Saturday night they were playing without Emeka Egbuka, without Mayan Williams. They lost JT Tuimoloau at one point. Kyle McCord, as we mentioned earlier, was banged up. They lost Lathan Ransom in the second half. At some point when you're looking around at all the injuries sort of starting to pile up all of a sudden, did Brian Day start to worry that, hey, maybe this just isn't our night?
No, you're not allowed to think like that. You don't have a choice. I always say we're in control of what we do. And, this time of year, we play physical brand of football, and things like that are going to happen. But most of those guys, they get right back in the game after taking a shot, and for those who have played football before, it's like having sometimes, you get leg whipped or something. It's like someone taking a Louisville Slugger and smacking it into your shin. It hurts. And, certainly there's a difference between hurt and injured. But our guys, man, they battled. And you saw a bunch of guys just fighting at the end. They didn't want to come out of the game. I think our team, at halftime always has had a good look in their eye all year, knowing that they want to come out and play really well in the fourth quarter. And you're seeing us do that. I mean, we're playing well in the fourth quarter. I'd like to see us, even play better in the first half, but we are finishing games where we're supposed to finish them. We're finishing games. I think there's ways that we can finish them better, but at the end of the day, the goal is to keep winning, and we got to keep doing that. And we know the challenges are going to keep getting bigger and bigger here down the stretch.
This is something we talked about on the post-game show. Ohio State has now made it through several of their big kind of red flag games, like, hey, night game on the road in Madison, that's not easy. Hey, Penn State at home, that's not easy. Night game on the road in South Bend, that's not easy. They've made it through all of those. They are now 8-0. We know we talked off the top of the show, that Michigan game just 26 days away, and the Buckeyes are going to be big favorites the next 3 weeks. Ryan Day is already warning them, do not start looking ahead.
Yeah, I mentioned to the team as we were watching some games this afternoon, just watching some of the teams play at noon, then the 3:30 games. You got to bring it every week, and you have one bad day and your season's ruined. The teams that we play are very good teams. They're well coached, and winning is just not something that we're entitled to. We got to do it, and that's the competitive stamina that we talk about. And especially going on the road, these games are hard. The next one will be a battle next week against Rutgers. It will. I think it's a noon kickoff, right, Jerry? Is it noon?
Yes.
Yeah, it's a noon kickoff. I mean, Greg's doing a good job with those guys. So battles, but the good thing is we're getting battle tested as well. I think the more battles you get into, the more poise you have because you have something to reference. You don't panic. But again, we're going to watch the film and throw coffee against the wall again, I'm sure.
This year's Ohio State team is 8-0, just like several of the other recent vintages of this team have been 8-0 as well. But it's taken a very different look, the way they've gotten to 8-0 this year. The offense has been a little less explosive than it has in the past, but the defense has really stepped up. How much of a security blanket was that defense for the Buckeyes in the second half? And how much does it change your thinking on decisions during the game when hey, you don't necessarily need to score 50 points to win every week?
Yeah, I think they're in the second half when Wisconsin came out, scored, we came back, scored, and then the ball was, I think it was, coming out, and then we ended up on like the 10-yard line. We brought it to midfield, flipped the field, got it inside the 10, and usually it'd be like, well, we got to go for it, we got to score. And so pooching the ball in those situations right now, like you said, with a good defense, you feel like, you got an opportunity to get the ball back. If it's a 3 and out, then you're going to get the ball at midfield. If it's a couple first downs, and you feel decent about those. And so, yeah, I think it's something where you got to get a feel during the game how it's going. But it starts with the run game. If the run game, if we're stopping the run, then you feel like you're in control of the game. And I think that was a big part coming into the game. We had to run the ball, stop the run, and show toughness. I think we did all three of those things.
One of the signature moments for the defense in the game, and maybe for the season, was that goal line stand right before halftime. Wisconsin had the ball first and goal at the 1, looked for all the world like they were going to punch it in and cut it to 10-7 at halftime, and then the Buckeye defense stood tall, got 3 stops in a row, forced them to kick a field goal. It ended up only 10-3 at halftime instead. How big was that goal line stand for this team?
Not giving up an inch with the ball on the 1-yard line. Just keep fighting and keep swinging, keep playing. The play Tommy made on the shovel was huge, But our guys, they played hard. They rallied to the ball. I thought the secondary played well. They got their hands on some balls. And that was another really good performance by our guys.
So that'll do it for current Ohio State head coach Ryan Day. Now let's hear from a former Ohio State head coach, Luke Fickell. He, of course, now the head coach of the Wisconsin Badgers. He is now 0-2 against his alma mater. He lost a 42-0 game as the Cincinnati head coach back in 2019. This was a little bit closer, a little more competitive, but the Badgers did lose. And after the game, it was pretty clear. Luke Fickell thought that the play of TreyVeyon Henderson, the play of Marvin Harrison, who had 6 catches, 123 yards, a pair of touchdowns, that was really the difference. How much of a difference do guys like that make in a game like that?
Players make plays. I mean, it's not hard to figure out sometimes. And it's just, it's hard to stop. And, they had two difference makers that everybody knows about, but they were difference makers again tonight, and so we got those are the things you got to find, and when somebody goes down like Braden or Braylon, then somebody else has to step up, and hoping that you have some of those playmakers. They just haven't had the opportunities just yet. But that's what we're going to have to find. We're going to have to find those guys that have the ability to step up when somebody else goes down, and when their number's called and they have the opportunity and the ball comes their way, can they make the plays?
Coming into the game, the Wisconsin run defense was a little bit of a question. They'd been a little shaky at times during the season, and that was something the Ohio State offense took advantage of on Saturday night with that big game from TreyVeyon Henderson and some big plays from Xavier Johnson on the ground as well. That defense has been inconsistent throughout the year. So what does Fickell think the issues have been, and then how did those issues play out against the Buckeyes on Saturday?
I think it starts with leverage, and then I think it goes into tackling. And there's all different kinds. We saw early in the year, and a lot of space tackles that we were doing that we weren't very good at, and maybe a little bit more tonight with some physicality on the tackling. Actually, the ones that hurt us, that's the big runs. I think we had some missed tackles or some bounce offs, and a couple of third downs where they throw a check down, and we've got exactly what we want, and they find a way to get 7 when they need 7 or get 7 when they needed 6. But tonight was a tougher one to overload the box with what you had to try to deal with on the outsides as well. So it's a catch-22. But we know that that's where we've got to do a better job. But I know going into it that not giving up the big plays was critical. And if it was a methodical drive, I thought that, guys, this is something that we're going to have to live with in some ways and then be able to make some plays. Because we made enough minus yardage plays to put us in some really good situations. But in return, we gave up too many of those really big plays.
Well, with the Wisconsin game now in the rearview mirror, the Buckeyes will be hitting the road again this weekend. They'll be playing at Rutgers on Saturday. That is a noon kickoff in Piscataway. Tony Gerderman and Kevin Noon and I will all be there covering that for BuckeyeHuddle.com. But before that game happens, boy, there is going to be a whole bunch of news this week, I'm sure, on Ohio State. We'll see if there's an update on the Michigan situation. We'll see. We'll have our usual scheme update, our X's and O's shows with our buddy Ross Fulton. Probably some recruiting news, I'm guessing, at some point this week. That's how this sort of stuff tends to go this time of year. We are headed into the month of November, and that is when it starts to get real in the world of college football. It will start to get real in the college football playoff world on Tuesday night. That is when the first college football playoff rankings reveal will happen. Tony and Kevin and I will be doing our usual live show. That'll be Tuesday night on our YouTube channel, youtube.com/BuckeyeHuddle. That show starts around 7 o'clock, so go ahead and pencil that in. And if you're worried, I don't want to miss that one, make sure you're subscribed to our channel. Make sure you hit that bell on that YouTube channel as well, so you get notified when we go live, so you won't miss anything. Should be some very interesting things to talk about. That first rankings reel, obviously not the final one, but gives you a good sense what the committee's thinking about your team. And there was a lot of scuttlebutt over the weekend that the committee might be viewing Ohio State as the number 1 team in the country right now, just based on that win at Notre Dame, the win over Penn State, win at Wisconsin. The Buckeyes have a pretty good resume right now. We will find out what the committee thinks about it on Tuesday. You can watch that all with us at youtube.com/BuckeyeHuddle on Tuesday night. So looking forward to that. Back with another show tomorrow. So thank you guys all for joining us. Have a great day. We'll talk to you tomorrow.